Buenos días.
Buenos días.
Es un placer para nosotros andar aquí con ustedes. Les presento a mi amigo el Güero. Hola, Güero.
Hola, Güero.
Hola, Güero.
Hola, Güero.
Muy bien, yo soy la señora O'Niel y me da mucho gusto bailar aquí con ustedes. I will now speak in English for those of you that are wondering, what did she say? This is my friend Beau Bledsoe, also known as El Güero. And today we are going to talk to you about the culture, the music, and the dancing of Spain. Many people confuse it with Mexico or other Spanish-speaking countries, but today we're specifically talking about Spain and a lot of breath this morning, it's called. And it's called flamenco. There are many people who mispronounce it and call it flamingo or folklorico, but it is flamenco. Here we have a map of Spain. Beau?
Next slide, please.
This is the region that we are talking about, and people often ask, when did flamenco start? And what historians believe is that over 500 years ago, during the time of Christopher Columbus and Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand, during that time, Spain was very powerful, and they are the ones that loaned Christopher Columbus the ships, the money, and the sailors to find the shortcut to the West Indies. You know the story? Okay. So, but instead of finding the West Indies, Christopher Columbus discovered...
we have the previous slide, please?
The previous slide, please. Landed in this area down here, the Dominican Republic and Cuba, and those areas. Spain at the time felt very powerful because not only had they found a new country, a new world, they came back with wonderful things like chocolate, potatoes, tomatoes, coconuts, things that these parts that Spain had never seen. Parrots, macaws, different kinds of birds, and they even took with them back to Spain some of the native people to say, we didn't find a shortcut, but we found something better. And at that time, Spain felt very powerful, and they decided that everyone in Spain should become Catholic. At that time in Spain, there was many different religions and cultures living there. There was Moors, there was Jewish people, there was Muslims, and these people did not want to convert. So what they did is they went and hid in the mountains and in the caves of Andalusia, in the southern part of Spain. And this is where we believe that the flamenco began.
2 slides, please.
There you go. So in these caves, these people were able to do their own religion, celebrate the way they wanted to without feeling ostracized or without being persecuted.
Next slide, please.
Can you see? So these people didn't have regular jobs. They became tinkerers. They would make things. And as they were making things such as pots and pans and things like that, they would start to pound out these things, these pots and these pans. They came up with a rhythm. And with that rhythm, which I will demonstrate, someone began doing this particular rhythm. Other people joined in. Somebody began to play a guitar to this rhythm. And then somebody began to sing. And the song is a solea. It's a very sad song, comes from the word solo, which means alone. These people felt very alone. And this is where we believe that the flamenco began.
Next slide, please. please.
The shawl is a very
The shawl is a very interesting piece of dancing equipment. It's an extension of the arms. Yes, also used in flamenco dance is called a fan, el abanico. This dance that I'm going to do is called a guajira. It actually comes from Cuba. So these Spaniards that left Spain, because Christopher Columbus went 3 times, when they went to these different places, a lot of people said, I want to go. So they took with them their things, their music, the beginning of flamenco, and we believe that the guajira began there in the hot tropics of Cuba. And then when the people decided to come back to Spain, where it was safe to practice your own religion, they brought this back with them. This dance, this music, and the fan. It's called an ida y vuelta. It went, and it came back. Guajira. Now for our closing number.
Next slide, please. And the next. And the next. One more. We gotta address this guy here.
Does anyone know where that building is? There's 2 different locations.
Cheesecake Factory.
Across the street from the Cheesecake Factory.
Yes.
And the other one is in Spain. Muy bien. What city? Sevilla. Muy bien. Extra points. Extra points. Now, which is which? Is this Kansas City?
Yeah.
Is this Kansas City?
Next slide, please.
That is the Giralda Tower in Seville. Now remember, these Catholic people in Spain needed to make the biggest church in the world, so they needed the biggest bell tower in the world. They made the Giralda Bell Tower. Now, when Kansas City developers made the plaza, they wanted to do something similar, so they made a replica of the Giralda Tower, but the one on the plaza is 3 times smaller, shorter, and narrower. The one in Spain has 93 ramps to get from the bottom to the top, wide enough to ride a horse to the top to ring the bell. Because in that time, people didn't have wristwatches, and the bell at the church would tell you things like, time to get up, time to go to work, time to go to school, time to come home, time for siesta, time for prayer. So they, instead of going up that tall, they would ride a horse.
Next slide, please.
There's the church, there's the tower. The one you can tell the slides before, which one? The one that had the fountain, the one on the right, was the one in Spain. The one here, it's across the street from the Cheesecake Factory, is the one here in Kansas City. I will be playing castanets. They're not called licky things.
Next slide, please.
In Spain, in old Spain, they're called palillos, but in Spanish, they're called castañuelas. It is a musical instrument played on the thumb, played by both men and women. It's not a girl thing. When you hear or see someone playing castanets, you know that you are seeing something specifically Spanish. No other culture uses these musical instruments. Granted, you see a guitar player and you're wondering, what's he gonna play? Rock and roll, blues, Mexican, Spanish. You hear a drum. Where are these drums from? You don't really know until they begin to play. Castanets is a strictly Spanish instrument. The dance I'm going to do is called the Sevillanas. It is done with partners. Girls and girls, girls and boys, old ladies, old men, little kids, big kids, everybody's included. Yes, it's done during the feria, which is the latter part of April, and the people come out all decked out in their finest with mostly polka dots, because that's the civilian way.
Next slide, please.
That's a picture of feria. They still dress like that today. Vamos con las sevillanas.
Next slide, please.
Are there any questions? We will be in the hallways after this if you want to talk to us or ask questions of whether the guitar or the dance or the costume or the shoes or the castanets. Is there any questions I can answer for you? Extra credit? Yes.
How often do you practice?
We don't practice together very often. I do practice at my house. I do have a flamenco studio in my basement where I like to practice, and Beau practices all the time.
I should address this. Flamenco is an improvisatory art form, so we could have just not known each other and done those sevillanas. There's a dialogue, a language that flamenco has, where two people that don't really know each other can make something and not really have any rehearsals. But of course you have to practice to be able to learn to do that and to play your instrument and to be able to dance.
There is something, if I can take a few more minutes, I know we only have 20. If I can take a few minutes, because I don't want to keep you from class.
Okay.
There is something called the llamada. Let me talk about that. It is a calling between the dancer and the musician. Let me take off my castanets. What Beau said is true. He does his thing, I do my thing. But as a dancer, I am in control of how fast he is playing or how slow he should play. So when I do my stomping or my clapping, I'm either lifting the tempo or lowering the tempo to agree with how fast I am willing to dance. When I am done dancing, to say I am tired, I am done, I give a calling. It's with my feet. It sounds like this. It's like a knocking on the door. And it's a cue to him to say, I'm getting ready to stop. So I do uno, dos, tres, because we're counting in Spanish, because we're doing flamenco. He counts and I count. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, y 10. On 10. He stops, I stop. So let me show you a little bit of an escobilla from the Alegría, demonstrating the uno, dos, tres. You listen for it, he listens for it, and we stop together. Did you see it? Also in the Guajira? No, you didn't see it.
I was listening really hard.
I didn't see it. Okay, again.
I think we're supposed to be shorter this time. Subida.
Now that time, I did it a little bit bigger and more obvious. Yeah. This movement of the skirt also kind of signifies, in case he can't hear me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes? Thank you, boys and girls, for being such a wonderful audience.
One more round of applause. Thank you for sharing your culture with us. We really appreciate your artistry.